Hey everyone, my name is Vince. Welcome to my Slashers Keep review for the PC. For those who do not know, Slashers Keep is a $20 procedurally generated dungeon crawler. It is incredibly fun, but very difficult. Just a note, this review does contain spoilers. Let's begin. At the start of the game, you have two of the available 6 races to choose from, a Northerner or an Amazonian. The story is based on you being falsely imprisoned for a crime you didn't commit. As you step out into the procedurally generated halls, you are greeted with some ghastly creatures that you can pretty much take care of without any problems. Slashers Keep melee system allows you to parry and block most melee attacks if you can time it correctly, but sadly this is our first run on the game, so we get defeated quite easily. Slashers Keep does feature a leveling and stat system, everyone. Each time you level up, you'll be granted 4 skill points, guys, that you can actually delegate into either strength, dexterity, or intelligence. Now, when you do eventually fail, you will not only lose your whole inventory, you will lose a certain percentage of stat points that have been allocated to your character at the current time. A Steam guide states that you will lose 25% of all stats, money, levels, and completely lose your accumulated experience towards the next level. So that does sound pretty harsh, everyone, but what you have to remember is that you still keep 75% of your stats, money, and levels. P.S. Thank you very much, Nikita, for those details. So technically, each failure is making you stronger. Of course, this is under the assumption you're not failing non-stop without leveling up at all. When you level up, you also have the chance to actually unlock a unique spell from the spell book. Now, you can also permanently learn certain spells, so even when you do die, you still keep the spell. This can come in handy for life steal spells, crafting spells, magic spells, and overall spells in general to help your character grow. I wasn't able to get an exact list of spells just yet, but at the end of my game, I can guarantee there was at least 15 to 20 spells available for me to actually invest into somewhat, either permanent or not. For some reason, you need to unlock deflection on projectiles, which is really odd to me. You would assume that deflection comes naturally with a well-placed parry or block, but no, that's not the case, everyone. You have to learn it. Some weapons and items also carry the spells on them, so you don't actually have to learn them. They're a part of your equipment, which is pretty cool. The inventory system's very straightforward. Your character carries around a sack that acts as the inventory. You also have an equipment level that pretty much summarizes how strong you are. You can also use your sack as a weapon to smack enemies into traps. It's a very unique system. I like it a lot. The game to me has a very unique art design. I love the fact that it all looks drawn. That graphic design is just so cool, and the fact that the blood and guts look awesome as well is also a great addition. You'll find yourself scouring around each of the dungeon floors looking for potions. The potions can vary from health potions to invulnerability potions, or you can find ammunition for your wand. It all just varies. The quest giver. You'll randomly hear this guy blabbering on about a story. If you complete the tasks he gives you, he'll give you a nice piece of gear. Another thing that I love about this game is that the fact that the gear shows up on your character. It might sound like a minor thing, everyone, but this actually does make quite a big impact on customization. I do have to say though, sometimes the generation of the environments does not go to plan. I've had paths lead to absolutely nowhere. I've had enemies literally glitch and stay inside the walls. There is also an altar on some of these dungeon floors where you can actually give up an item of rarity to try and get another one. It's really interesting. It's kind of like a swap, everyone. Right now you're witnessing the first time I ever encountered a boss that cannot be defeated until you kick him into the spikes with your sack. And there you go, you just witnessed it firsthand. That is the first time I saw a trap in action, everyone. The game will give you no choice but to figure out that you have to use that sack, which I'm forever grateful for, because all I did is literally run around and smack creatures into the traps. I mean, why would you not? The traps insta-kill the mobs. It saves so much time, and this is such a valuable technique as you move into the deeper floors of the dungeon. You may find yourself getting swarmed by enemies if you're not strong enough to beat them down at once, guys. What ends up happening is if your character's too weak, you're gonna get overwhelmed by enemies in some rooms. At this point, you only have two options: either run around and try and find a trap, or try and take the creatures on one by one. The thing is, if you get it wrong, you might risk restarting your whole run again by dying, so just keep that in mind. Navigation can sometimes get quite confusing on Slash's Keep, everyone. I'm not even joking, sometimes I found myself running around like an absolute madman. Seriously, when you can find one of the mini maps that drops from the creatures, use it as soon as you can, because ultimately, you'll be running around for sometimes 10 minutes trying to find the exit, okay? The sooner you familiarize yourself with the minimap to see which icon means what, it will be so much better for you. Go on the Steam community page of this game, check out some of the guides, and start familiarizing yourself with the minimap icons. What you might find sometimes are chutes on the wall, guys. These chutes allow you to give your beginning character items for when you die. So as soon as you die, the gear you throw in the chute will appear in the chest at the front of your jail cell when you spawn again. I found myself walking into a lot of empty corridors in this game. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? There's a lot of exploration. If you don't like exploration, maybe this game wouldn't be the best for you. But eventually I did manage to find a shopkeeper. So yes, there are shopkeepers in this game. I'm pretty sure they spawn at random though. You'll find mechanical traps as well along your journey, and they are hilarious. They pretty much swing straight to the enemy's head. Just a note, you can also get hit by your own traps, so keep that in mind. Now, in regards to the actual enemies of the game, there's a lot of variety, okay? You'll find yourself versing mole rats, goblins, ghouls, spiders, balls of goo, demons, flying skulls. It's a hell of a ride. And trust me, when you're a weak character going into these higher dungeons, you have to understand you can die in 2 hits or 1 hit, everyone. So it's not a walk in the park. Trust me, these creatures do become quite frightening because you realize the damage they can actually deliver onto your player. Eventually you'll get to the point where you verse your first real boss, and let me just say, this big mama means business. Developer, if you're watching this, thank you very much for throwing a spider at me. I absolutely hate spiders, and seeing this ginormous creature literally spitting out little baby face-hugging spiders scared the absolute hell out of me. So yeah, guys, expect spiders. Not only that, expect spiders to try and jump on your face. It's a hell of an experience, and luckily enough, I was able to beat the spider by actually getting the spider to stand in its own acid. So, GG everyone, it is an insane fight. Please make sure you get enough gear to withstand the spider's hits, or you will fail. Luckily enough, the spider drops some great gear, so keep that in mind. Sadly, after I've beaten the spider boss, I go to the next level, but for some reason the game decides to kill me. I have no idea why, but the game decided to glitch out just as I beat the spider. So that was excellent for me to rerun, everyone. I didn't really find myself using the wands too much. I mean, honestly, I don't think I was geared up or spec'd up towards magic. I'm more of a melee person, everyone. I love my strength. Essentially, what I ended up doing was running around, just clobbering the enemies, kicking them into traps, kicking them off platforms. You just do what you gotta do to survive, and it seems that stacking up on strength is the most viable way you're gonna survive, okay? You end up being able to craft your own weapons as well. I do appreciate the fact that the developers put the effort in for us to create and name our own weapons. Though the strength of them is really based on the actual materials that you manage to find throughout your dungeon runs. Once we get past that spider boss again, the game starts to take an interesting turn. They throw a lot of traps at you, everyone, and a lot of platforming. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that the game threw some very strong creatures at me. Don't get yourself mistaken here, you will die so many times on dungeon levels 5 and above. The game is stacked against you at this point. It wants you to die multiple times so then you can actually level up your character more, okay? You have to think about that, everyone. You need to fail to succeed. But what I didn't understand is what's with the sudden change with platforming? Now, any of the dungeons before that spider boss, they did have some platforming in it, but it was nothing like this. From Dungeon 5 onwards, the platforming can only be described as odd. It felt like I was sort of jumping in mud when I was trying to do a lot of the platforming. There's something about the jumping in this game that I just can't explain, everyone. The jumping works fine when you're fighting enemies and when you're running around in the dungeons themselves, but when it came to the platforming, I just found it jarring. Like, it wasn't natural, dude. It was just weird. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. It wasn't a game breaker, but it just wasn't that fun for me. I didn't really enjoy the platforming up the wall. Like, it just kind of seemed like a time padder, if that makes sense, just to try and waste our time a bit. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on the game at all for having first-person platforming. I just really didn't enjoy those parts of the dungeon for some reason. All I can say is thank the Lord that the soundtrack is good in this game, because when I was doing those puzzle platforming parts, I was only listening to that soundtrack, and thankfully it wasn't giving me a headache, which is great. It's actually a very relaxing soundtrack. You'll also find throughout your experiences there will be these little balls filled with like poison or magic. If it's strengthening an enemy, you obviously want to destroy them. If you can consume them, then consume them. More than likely you'll get health or invulnerability or ammunition for your wand, so keep that in mind. The traps were kind of a nuisance, I guess. I mean, I ended up walking into a wall trap accidentally and it killed me straight away. That was a bit of an inconvenience. The floor spikes aren't that big of a deal, the pattern's pretty easy to understand. What you'll find is that the more bigger trap is the actual demon ball that ends up destroying you in one shot if you don't kill it in time. Literally, you just saw it then on camera, guys. My health got obliterated then. Moving into the end game content, essentially the game gets extremely difficult at this point. Expect to rage, expect to die, it's going to happen, everyone. For some reason, enemies glitch through the walls sometimes in this level. I have no idea why, but it did happen to me twice. And yeah, dying at this stage is not a fun experience because you have to do it all again. If you didn't know by now, the story actually unravels itself between each loading screen of the dungeon floors. At this point in the game, we are up to the last floor. We have been betrayed. It is all or nothing now. This is the day we get our revenge. We go to the blacksmith, we go to the shopkeeper, we make sure we're ready for a final fight, and then we head into the final room. What greets us is an Amazon warrior that's under mind control. I choose to try and defeat the warrior first because I thought she would kill me if I didn't. So I kick her into the spikes and I wail on her over and over again. Eventually we do get the 1-up on the Amazon warrior and she is defeated. What happens next is a very interesting concept. I try and pick up the Amazon warrior, it doesn't work. So I start wailing on the balcony. The balcony does crumble to the floor. This is where the key to the door and to our exit drops. A lot of people had problems finding this key. I literally just walked over the rubble and I was able to leave. And that is it. We have our ending. That is the ending of Slash's Keep for now, everyone. Funny enough, I was able to unlock a Sasquatch race as well, which is hilarious. Maybe one day you'll see him in action on my channel. Either way, everyone, that ends Slash's Keep. What an interesting game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It did take me around 7 hours to complete, so keep that in mind. It did make me quite frustrated sometimes, but it is definitely a good title. A title that needs some polishing up, but I believe that this game has a lot of great things coming up for it. I hope the developer does not stop investing time into this game. It has a lot of potential, only time will tell though. Either way, everyone, I really enjoyed Slash's Keep. Give it a try, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you on my next review. See you later.